Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. Today is going to be wonderful because today, ladies and gentlemen, I have the host of the Mark Attwood Show joining me to tell us, well, about the weapons of mass protection. We're in a spiritual war, as you know, and we're often thinking, how can we call on our spirituality to get us out of here? Never mind being in a jungle, we are in this very strange place, but as having spoken to Mark just before we started to record, I know we're in a good place because we are going to win. We just have to recognise it. Mark, welcome to the show. It's lovely to have you here.
Hello, Mr. Vobes. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much. And I'm thriving now, especially now that I'm no longer under the thumb in terms of the financial thing of a big corporation called YouTube, even though they still allow me just about to shove a few videos up on their platform.
Well, I did when I found out that you'd been shoved off. I did send you one of the poems I wrote a couple of years ago called YouTube. I don't know if you actually got to watch it, but
Does ring a bell. At the time, of course, I was like, yeah, but they're my paymasters. I've got to, doff my hat and say good morning every time I log on and be very kind to them. My attitude has somewhat changed, as you can imagine.
well, it's good because you're going through one of the biggest spiritual lessons we all have to go through, which is you've got to let everything go.
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
and including turning off WhatsApp when your daughter rings you at 3 p.m.
Yes, Funnily enough, I've got my daughter who is normally in New Zealand. She's coming over to see me today because she's over here to see the family. So it's very special to see her. I haven't seen her for a year, not since she was forced by that rather lovely lady Jacinda. Remember her? That bloke,
Oh, that,
woman.
that horse bloke. Yes, yes, I
Yes,
remember her, yeah.
him,
Yeah.
her,
What
whatever.
thing? Yeah.
So
That's lovely. I hope that goes well. My son's coming back from Croatia today, so I'm
ah.
to that too. So it's nice.
Yes.
Family day. Yes.
Family Day, Family Day. Anyway, you've written a new book with your partner in crime, Abby Wynn.
Yes.
Mass weapons mass weapons.
This
See,
is an
that's the trouble.
anagram. Yeah.
This is an anagram. See if you can work it out. That's the error of reading the screen instead of actually looking at the book and trying to look professional. Weapons of mass production.
Protection.
Protection.
Yes.
It's
Think,
one of those days when you go, can I get out of bed again,
think
please?
condoms. You can't go wrong.
Practical tools for spiritual warfare. I mentioned that we're in a spiritual warfare. Now, this is a lovely book. And what I do like about this, it's unlike most books where you're sort of somebody is preaching to you and saying, oh, this is what spirituality is all about, and this is how we're going to protect ourselves. This is just you and Abby basically having a conversation. And it does sound like you're sitting in the pub having a few drinks, but you're not inebriated, but you're having this delightful, insightful conversation and sharing ideas, which comes across as a very nice, easy read. And then you've got these sort of panel bits, which sort of go into a little bit more detail for those who perhaps are, a bit novice to what you're talking about, which I think is great.
Oh, good. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you talk about all sorts of things, like chapter 1 starts right at the start, doesn't it? With are demons real?
Yes, indeed.
And how do you know if you're under attack?
Yeah.
And what does an attack look like? So, it would be great to get into a little bit of that because I'm sort of starting my spiritual journey, as it were. 19 months of sort of looking into the truth movement and trying to work out all of this and talking to lots of different people who have different versions or iterations of what spirituality is. And I came to this, and we'll let you speak. I normally let the people speak. But I came to this not really fully grasping what spirituality is. I had this notion of the Victorian pictures of people sitting around with Ouija boards and cotton wool coming out of their mouths as ectoplasm. And so it's been a bit of an education, all of this, letting go and letting the universal, whatever it is, or God, talk to me. And I started to realize that was actually happening. So, how did the book come about? What is it about? And tell us about your reason for writing it.
Well, the book itself came about because I started my podcast in 2020 because I was told to. I think I said this on the show that we did last year.
Yeah,
I know sounds nuts. I was an atheist for 25 years after my dad died. I thought there can't be a God. This place is crazy. It's too evil. And but yeah, I did. I got literally told you've got to start a podcast. I was like, what? And dragged it. It's hard to explain, but you know,
mm.
I ended up giving the camera to my son, started this podcast, and this whole world just opened up. And I didn't know what I was going to talk about, but I've done like 3,000 interviews and talks and films and books, and it's just been a crazy, amazing 4 years in many, many ways. I don't just mean for me personally. I mean, it is the most incredible time in history, whichever way you look at it, right? Um, and that part of that has been meeting incredible people. Like my criteria for interviewing anybody is I want to interview somebody who knows more than me about something.
Absolutely.
And Abby, she's a spiritual shamanic healer, has been for 20 years, lives in Dublin. I live in the west of Ireland. And she contacted me and started talking to me about soul retrievals. And I was like, what's a soul retrieval? So I met up with her and we made a video and I learnt a lot from her. And we became mates, really. And we'd be chatting about our personal spiritual experiences and strangeness and journey to this point in our lives. And we're similar sort of age. And she rang me about 9 months ago and said, "There's a lot of people suffering and they need help. Would you like to write a book about spiritual protection with me?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely," because I've been weirdly doing spiritual protection for 15 odd years myself. Because my earliest memory was demons trying to recruit me in my bedroom when I was 3 years old in the minus, not minus strike, in the 4 day week when Edward Heath, the satanic paedophile Edward Heath, was in charge of the country and getting us into the satanic EU via the back door known as the common market. But I didn't know any of that then. And yeah, and I think I came to the conclusion the whole world's been demonically possessed. We just didn't realize it. And the post-COVID era is about people unshackling from the demonic chains. And when I say demons, you know, I'm talking about, don't think about it. If you're watching this, don't think, oh, he's religious now. I'm not. I don't like religion at all. But God is there is a creator. No question there's a creator. And look how amazing we are. And look how amazing the world is. So there's a lot more to the world than even I don't mean even I in an egotistical way. I mean, even an atheist like me thought there was at one point, because I did fall into the whole Richard Dawkins bullshit materialism stuff for quite a long time. And so that's why we wrote this book, and we wrote it to help anybody that is suffering and under attack. I mean, I'm still under attack every day now. I even last night I was under attack, and it's happening all the time. And more people are realizing that it's not just hangovers or too much coffee or too much bread or the weather. There's other things going on that cause depression, that cause anxiety, that cause this lack of hope, right? Because without hope, we're nothing. And
Right.
the understanding firstly what it is, are they real? And the whole book is really, we did it as a conversation because it's like a man and a woman having a conversation. I'm a bit more forthright about things. She's got different knowledge. We don't always agree on stuff either. So the whole book is really it's like a springboard for anybody that's new to any of this to go and do their own research, because we're in a post-guru age as far as I'm concerned. I mean, all those spiritual leaders of the world like Deepak Chopra, Oprah Winfrey, and all those big megastars that could command tens and hundreds of millions of people watching their spiritual wisdom are soon to be unveiled to be the complete opposite of what we thought they were. So, and some of them already have. Um, it's really a case of saying, look, we're just ordinary people that lived this life and we've had these extraordinary experiences, and loads of other people have too. And they've got lots to teach us and tell us. And we've had our own Obi-Wan Kenobis in our own lives because we're all living through our own hero's journey. Anyway, I think where we are right now is at the end of the hero's journey for the planet, but every cell in your body goes through a hero's journey. Your whole life is a hero's journey, and the universe goes through a hero. So it's micro and macro, and understanding, having a kind of feel for that and understanding it is a very powerful place. And personally, I'm fed up of waiting for the bad guys to be all taken out. And I think the more people that learn how to protect themselves spiritually, the faster we're going to get through it. So
Yeah.
that's rambling long version of why the book exists. And we released it about a month ago. It's got amazing reviews in the print on demand sites where we've had to put it to be able to get worldwide distribution in the right way. But we've also done it, and I hope I've given you a link that you can share with your viewers where you can get it for free. This is not about selling books. This is like,
Gosh,
if you've got no money, go and sign up and get the ebook for free. It's the link will be near here somewhere,
right.
and then take
It
it from
be
there.
in the description, yeah.
And if you want to go further and you want to go and buy this lovely new hardback that just got delivered yesterday, go and get it. Support the
Right.
writers, but you don't have to pay for it to get the information. And Abby is extremely practical, and she's put in loads of exercises and meditations and all sorts of loads of stuff. Actually, we've done an audio book version, we've done a video version, because people consume information in different ways. We understand that. So we've just tried to make it as available as possible to as many people as possible to speed this bloody war up, because I'm fed up of
Yes.
waiting for us to publicly win it, even though I think we've
Yes.
already won it on another dimension. Here, there's a lot of very frustrated people who are still focused on the 3D stuff instead of
Right.
focusing on their own connection to God, and then making sure that they're protected, that their auric field is strong, that they recognize when they're being attacked. And usually it's because as your frequency rises, you will get attacked.
Right.
It's like an automated defense system. It's like the Iron Dome that Trump mentioned the other day in Israel. It's a system that we can beat because we are more powerful than them, which is why they go to all these massively convoluted lengths to get us to agree to kill ourselves.
Right. So, I mean, tell me about these demons then. How do we perceive, or how do you perceive them? What are we, in order to understand that we're being attacked by these things, especially if it seems to me that there's a contradictory in terms. If you're raising your vibrations and you're all about love and you're much more open, you'd think that your power is so strong that these demons couldn't get you. But if you're down in the dumps, or you're feeling sad, whatever it is, that you're more vulnerable. But you're saying they're more likely to attack you the higher up the table you go, as it were.
Well, I mean, your natural state, your state before you come into this realm, is one of extremely high vibration and love and unity consciousness and all of that. That's where we come from. We come here. This is the densest place there is, and the whole system is satanic. Birth in the West is a satanic ritual. That's why you get doctored through the birth canal, and then you get separated and disconnected, and that's why they take the blood and they separate the mothers, and they push cesareans and I'm going off on one about birth, but
Sure. But
every
that's only
single
quite recent. I mean, in terms of history, that's only quite recently, isn't it? I mean, in the a couple of hundred years ago, there you are in your village, and the woman is pregnant. She's got maybe a friend around her, and the husband's out there on the field, sort of tilling the soil or whatever he's doing, and she's just got a coat. And, oh, hello, darling. I've just had another couple of sprogs. You swine! I don't want any more mouths to feed. Stick it in the hedge, bung it down
well,
the well.
that's true, and relies upon lots of assumptions of what we know about history, because we're all about to learn.
Well, of course,
uh,
that is, yeah. I mean,
I was thinking
there's
about.
always that proviso, isn't there?
I
That
know.
our
I mean,
history is,
that's a whole other rabbit hole. But yeah, no, I do take your point. The point I was making is that the system in and of itself is designed to create misery and for you to lose connection to your creator. From
yes,
from the footwear that we've been wearing for the last century, which disconnects us from the earth, from the toxins in the paint. I had a guy on, a toxology expert, the other day, was talking about the Grenfell fire and the toxology. There's 4.5 kilograms, or was that more than that? It's a lot of toxic chemicals in every house in the UK and Ireland that we don't know. Children are breathing in formaldehyde when they're in bed because it's in the mattresses. I mean, it just the list goes on and on and on, and not to mention everybody's now looking. Well, I say everybody. There's a lot more people recognizing chemtrails and bad chemicals in the water, the fluoride in the water in particular, which calcifies the pineal gland. And the main function of the pineal gland it's like your telephone line to God. That was the second video I did on my podcast 4 years ago. So these things are in place to answer your question. The people that are low down and depressed, they've already done their work on them.
right.
The demons don't need. They want them to take their own lives. The pharmaceuticals that these people take, antidepressants, have suicide built into them. They do not solve your depression. They make you more depressed and they make you suicidal.
Yes.
So, obviously you've got to clean up your system, and you've got to do all these physical things that are all around you, which is what really this COVID period for me has been about. I've called it spiritual quarantine for 4 years because that's exactly what's happened. People have had to look inside themselves and find and ask themselves, who am I? What am I doing here? Does this life make any sense? That's why the divorce rate's gone through the roof. That's why so many friends and families have split up in the last 4 years, because people are finding out who they are. And from my perspective, COVID is the best thing that's ever happened to humanity, because we now know who everybody is. We're all on a different point of the journey, and there's nobody greater or better than anybody else. But if you've got something to share, one of my messages has been, get online like Richard, get online like me, or just go and start a community farm, go and do something, whatever your skills are suited to, go and
Yes.
do something to not only resist the tyranny, but also and the evil, but also to build the version of the world that we want to see, which is why I
Yeah.
ended up opening a healing center in the west of Ireland a year ago as well, because we're actually healing people now. And that's like amazing.
Mm.
I can't believe that I'm actually doing that at the age of 55 after spending last 30 years in business, and I'm actually doing something positive. And it's not about being perfect. This is the other thing that people get bogged down with. That's what I mean by being in a post-guru era. We're not looking for perfection. We've all made mistakes. We've all learned that fear is their biggest weapon against humanity. But two of the other biggest weapons are shame and guilt. And you've just got to forgive yourself for everything, every mistake you've ever made, whether it was alcohol induced, drug induced, or whatever, or stress from not paying them. I mean, the fucking suicide rate in this country is ridiculous. And so much of it is caused by stress over debts, debts of imaginary money, fiat money
Yes.
that doesn't even
Yes.
exist. People are losing their lives over a piece of paper. It's insane. And that's all part of the demonic system, because my opinion is, this is a farm. We are the farm animals, and they've had to hold us into place. And their wet dream is to create self-slaughtering sheep, which is what they've managed to do to a large degree. But there's a lot of us that are resisting it and saying, no, we're not having it, and we're going to build something else. And there are tools that you can use that are in this book that will help you recognize when you're being attacked and keep them at bay and fight them off, and therefore rise higher and become who you're supposed to be and remember who you really are. Because that's what happens as you get higher. You start getting more inputs from the Akashic records, you start getting more perspective on this war that we're in, and then you just find more peace and serenity and realize you're an eternal spirit having a human experience, not a human having a spiritual experience.
Yes. So I'm just coming back to these demons. I just want a sort of bit of clarity on this. These demons can take place. Are they twofold? One in sort of human form, like the government and the bailiffs and the sort of nonsense stuff, and also in a sort of non-physical entity that's hitting your thought processes and affecting your emotions.
Yeah, that's a good point. I remember watching you talking about when the bailiffs came and how horrible that man was with the keys in the van, was it, or the car?
Mm.
That was a demonically possessed man, and we're surrounded by them. They're the ones in the hospitals doing the TikTok dancing when the vaccines come out. They're
Yes.
they're they're demonically possessed. They may not even have souls. I actually think 80% of the people on this planet are not actually human, but that's another rabbit hole for another day.
Yeah.
Um, if you look back throughout history, we've always had people that can see through the veil. We've always had people in every part of society, however far you want to go back and however much of that you believe is real. But if you just look at historical artifacts, like even cave wall paintings going tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years back, even medieval paintings of demonic entities or fourth dimensional beings. I mean, if you look into one of my favorite subjects of study is John Dee. Have you heard of John Dee?
Who was the advisor to Queen Elizabeth I?
Yeah, he was an alchemist, a polyglot, a mathematician, a physician, but he was also a sorcerer. And
Right.
John Dee apparently could tap into these. And the reason my last YouTube channel got taken down is because I linked John Dee to Mr. Schofield all the way through Jimmy Savile and Ian Fleming and Aleister Crowley and all the way back. I think there's a through line with all of them because
So
John.
I just should just say goodbye to YouTube right now then.
No, I said
Uh,
Mr. Schofield. I didn't say which one.
Ah, yes, there's many. Paul Schofield, by the way, is a very good actor in
He's
that
a
film.
superb actor,
A
yes.
superb actor, and I don't think it was him, but there's a
No,
lot of Schofields in the telephone book.
there are.
If
It could be
if
any
that's
one of them.
it could be
Any one
anyone.
of them.
See if you can get a copy of the telephone book first of all.
But they just took my YouTube channel down like that. No warning, no strikes, nothing. Down, gone.
Right.
And that was interesting to me because it was like, why would they take that one down when I've got all these other ones talking about what I would thought were worse things? But
Yeah.
if you look at John Dee, the story is, I mean, most people know that sank the Spanish Armada off the coast of Sligo, which is near where I live, twice. I think it was three times in actual fact, using sorcery. Now, sorcery could be described as there are some people online at the moment talking about that being dealing with the Draco and having flying saucers disturbing the sea. It doesn't really matter which way you look at it, but that is definitely historical record that there was something powerful about John Dee, and the Spanish Armada did strangely sink at least twice off the coast of Ireland. So Queen Elizabeth did not have to raise her armies. And then when you look a bit deeper into John Dee, he was communing with fourth dimensional entities and he was hungry for knowledge and he was asking them for the secrets to the universe. And he did a deal apparently where you had to get in order to get the knowledge, they wanted something in exchange for that, which I don't want to upset viewers, but go and do your own research. But it involved blood, and that's what I think is really possibly the beginning of the biggest industry on this planet, which begins with A and ends in Chrome, and and the reason why Google called their thing Chrome, by the
I
way,
see.
is totally connected to that. So when you understand that and understand that he was so overloaded with information that he set up universities and brought in scholars in order to write all this stuff down to put into secret vaults. So I think this all links to Tolkien as well, because Tolkien said in 1959, Lord of the Rings was based upon the true history of the Earth, based upon the books that he read in the secret vaults, based on the works of John Dee and the people that followed through. But that line continued through to Aleister Crowley, to Ian Fleming. I mean, Ian Fleming called James Bond's call sign was 007, and that was how John Dee signed his letters to Queen Elizabeth I, 007, which is shorthand for two ball cane, which is used hugely you'll see it on posters for Masonic um, golf competitions. It's everywhere. So two ball cane is the grandson, I think, of Cain, as in Cain and Abel, as in cannibal, a great hero in the Masonic world, and not a good person. So we've got this split that's always been there between good and evil. To qualify all of this, by the way, I think you're the only person in the room, and we're creating all of this anyway. But that's another deeper esoterical question. What was the question? Because I've been waffling now for a while. Oh, yeah, demons, right. So those demons in history are, I was actually just writing this earlier, and I think it's in the book. When I was 3 years old, when the demons were coming to my bedroom, there was one night my mum brought in a co-op tea light because I was scared of the dark and put it next to my bed. And I'd sit up in the bed and there'd be a shadow on the wall, rightly so, because the candle was over there. And that was fine. But there was another shadow on the other wall, which shouldn't have been there by any laws of physics. And it was very sharply defined and it had two horns on it. And I kept doing this and sitting up and down, going, what is that? That image with the horns and stuff is there for a reason because I think that is how they manifest in many cases, and there's just so much evidence that that's kind of what they look like, and they sit on you. People experience this all the time: sleep paralysis, the excuse me, the tall hatted man. There's loads and loads of evidence of all this stuff. It's not for me to say what they look for individual people because I do think they manifest in different ways for different people, but the majority of demonic attacks do come like wisp. You remember those cartoons when we were kids? You have the angel and the devil here and the
Oh
devil.
yeah. And yeah, one saying do this and the other one saying no, don't do that. Don't be so silly.
Yeah, well, I think that's completely true, and it's literally as simple as that. And they will just go and have another drink, have another drink. Go on, you know what?
So they sell that as your conscience, or your one. I can't remember what the other one is. The conscience and your sin mind, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's all about just knocking you off track,
Yeah.
and that's their power. Their power isn't. We're more powerful than they are, but they have the perception of power because they have fear. and they knock you off track throughout your life in order to create guilt and shame, which is then reinforced by most people's religious ideology that then
Right.
locks them into a place where they just can't move.
So,
And
so in a way, that's our Achilles heel, that we're vulnerable to persuasion instead of standing in our power and going, "Oh, shut up, get off,"
well,
you
no,
know.
no, I think we've got both. But it's only we tend to only say shut up and get off when we realize what's going on.
Right,
When the government turns around and says it's for your own good, we're all in it together, this is going to save your life. Of course, most of the people are going to fall for that
right.
because why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they believe that this big scary thing is going to come and kill them? And I'm doing my bit for everybody. That's the other thing
Yes,
they've got is that we're really nice and we want.
and the mainstream media have also backed them by saying this is the government line, and we think you should do that as well because here's all the so-called proof.
Yeah, and
So
then
yeah,
yeah, and then they have the brass balls to go on. Have I'm a celebrity, get me out of here, and say, look at me, aren't I a funny guy? Even though
I'm only human. I'm
I
only
murdered your
human.
granny. It's
Yeah,
like what? I mean, they're so in your face. That's what hidden in plain sight is all about. They
yeah.
understand this. They've always understood this, and the evidence is just ridiculous. I mean, do you remember when David Cameron was accused of having relationships with a dead pig's head?
Yes.
Yeah, and that followed the Dark Mirror episode. And then George Osborne, who was Chancellor, got accused of having a furry creature stuck in his derriere. And Boris Johnson, and these were all Boris Johnson was accused of burning £100 note in front of a homeless person down near the South Bank. They're all in the Bullingdon Club.
Hmm.
This is what they do. They go through these rituals. It's called cremation of care. And if you look into Bohemian Grove, which is the place in California where they go for this massive pedophilic satanic thing every summer, like the Bullingdon Club, like the Skull and Crossbow, all these secret societies, they all do the same thing. They go through these rituals to get rid of care. What does care
Hmm.
mean? It's like compassion,
Hmm.
caring about people. That's how they can stand up and just lie through their teeth. But a lot of that is related to possession. A lot of that is related to the Vril. I mean, Hitler was obsessed with the Vril Society, VRIL. If nobody's ever heard of them, go and look them up. They are lizards that live underground that have a proboscis that goes through your eye and takes over your consciousness. That's why you have the one eye club, the Illuminati symbol. It's,
Well, I've only got one eye.
well, that's very questionable, Richard.
Yeah. Well, I may have one up here somewhere. If only I could decalcify it and get it to work.
You can.
Um, and just on that, just as a diversion, just from that, somebody sent me a video of these amazing children. I think it's in Kent, somewhere like that. And they put blindfolds on. They're about 8, 9, 10, and they can see. They're young kids. They purposely put blindfold. They cannot see. You can draw a picture and they'll tell you exactly what it is. They'll tell you what you're wearing. They can walk around the room. They don't bump into anything. They can see. And then when they get to about 12 onwards, they sort of lose this ability. And that's inherent. And the
Yes.
lady who's teaching them or showing them, who had these kids there, saying, we can all do this, but we never get shown it. And of course, it's much more harder because as you get older, you've got all this programming of what the narrow bands of life is all about. And when I watched this, I mean, there was no way these kids were faking it. I'm absolutely convinced it was true. Um, and I just thought, gosh, I wonder if blind children have that. I'd love now to sort of contact blind children to see if they have some ability to see the world, although it's in a different type of seeing. I mean, it was absolutely amazing.
Well,
But
my
anyways,
brother was born blind, and
was he
and
totally blind?
he's registered blind, right? So he's listed as partially sighted, and that was allegedly caused by rubella, which I believe, looking back on it, was actually caused by a vaccine,
Mm,
right? Which altered his DNA, which altered his son's DNA because he wasn't supposed to be able to pass it on, but his son was born with exactly the same condition. And when he was treated horrifically as a kid, not by my parents, by the system, and he ended up going to a boarding school in Coventry. I was in Northampton, and um, I I used to when he was away, I used to put a belt around my head and walk around the house trying to see what it was like to be blind. And I used to walk around and not bump into anything as a kid. Now, I
Yeah.
can't say to you that I could see everything, but I certainly wanted to experience that as a child. And Andrew, bless him, went on to get, national records in swimming. And I mean, he still runs marathons now and he's 51. He's only crashed once. He runs on the streets. He can hardly see. I don't know.
Right.
So there is, the body does have incredible abilities because we have an energy field. The heart field is 2 miles out, but the energy field itself is, you know, the auric field is really who we are. This is why when you get people come close to you, say, "Oh, you're in my personal space," or "I've got a good vibe or a bad vibe," because we're vibrations. We're picking up on those things all the time. The whole system that we're in is all about putting those frequencies out of kilter from
Mm.
back to the stuff I was saying earlier. Really, what GMO food and pesticides and poisons and everything else. It just disrupts your frequency. When your frequency is disrupted, there's a place for these things to get in. It's like this is why there's bars on every corner across the world in most countries where you can drink booze because they're letting it's a way to to give them access. Otherwise, it'd be magic mushroom bars on every corner instead of booze corner. And
Yes.
and I like a drink as well. It's not that I'm not preaching at anybody. I'm just saying that these once you start to see it that way, you see, oh yeah, that's how they've screwed us up. And they, well, hang on, we're not top of the food chain. So what's going on here? And really, I just want to empower people to at least look at it and
Mm.
start to find their way out of that situation. But yeah, you're right. The human race, humans have incredible abilities, and also these things are coming online. We've been taught in schools and through media that 97% of our DNA is junk. It's not junk, it's just deactivated. And what I've seen anecdotally in my own life and with people that I've met on my travels over the last 4 years, especially, is that people are becoming more um, psychic, they're becoming more intuitive, they're becoming braver, and they're becoming more detached from the systems that were there. So in many ways, I do believe that all of this is God's plan, and it's all about finding that. You're being given the opportunity to find that connection, and the human race is being divided like into two really at the moment, and that's I want as many people to come across the bridge as possible. Hence, writing these books and doing podcasts. But, as my old friend used to say, you can take a horse to water, but a pencil must be lead.
Yes, very good. So I was just thinking there as you was talking there about the amazing ability of the human, or our spiritual side of our humanity. Do you think that? And you mentioned everything's vibrational and all of that. Do you think that some of these physical, whether good or bad, I was going to go down the negative side, that a medical intervention or an illness or whatever it might be, if but it doesn't necessarily, it could be the positive side of things. If everything is vibrational and it's all buzzing at different vibrations and we're able to control that vibration, then does it follow that ultimately, even though you might have taken something from the government in terms of a medical bonus, let's say, to help you get through the issue that they've told is happening, and even though that might be crammed full of something which actually doesn't really work in what we would call a biological way for our benefit, but if you're strong enough and have a strong enough belief and are able to sort of raise your vibration, could you change those vibrational forces of whatever that physical negativity is into something that actually will either leach out of you and do no harm, or turn it into an actual, a more rosy glow, if I can put it like that?
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, Jesus said, "You too shall do as I do," but more so. I do believe, I know human beings have these abilities, but the people that actually agreed to this are going to be far, far lower down frequency
Yes.
wise and pushed down further. So it's a taller climb up for the ones who've had the bad ones, especially.
Yes, I suppose that's a bit of a bad thing, because the whole belief system
Yeah.
would have to shift so high to make that seismic change. But if you're already relatively sort of able to push away a lot of negativity, you could look at things like EMFs and fluoride in the water and say, well, actually, do you know what? I don't mind if I have the occasional glass of water out the tap, because I really am able to just disperse it and
Well,
not let it affect me.
excuse me. I should be able to disperse this cough. But um, I absolutely 100% agree that that is possible. And the great piece of evidence for that is the rainbow bodies in Tibet. There are monks there that I think it's 13 years of meditating without a negative thought. They literally go into their light body and they leave behind a husk of their former selves. And I don't know exactly what the number is, but I know it's in the high hundred and something thousands, might be 800,000. Don't, if you're watching this, correct me in the comments. But these are recorded incidences of people vibrating at such a high frequency with just good thoughts that they go into what's known as the rainbow body. And then you've got things on the scale. I met a guy the other day who was talking to me about miracles that he's seen himself. And I was a brancardier at Lourdes because my friend's dad used to run the pilgrimage from Liverpool down to where, in the place in France where people thought they saw Our Lady. And I think it's more to do with the water. But I saw miracles there because of people's belief.
Yes.
People literally get up out of wheelchairs that they've been stuck in for years and walk away. Again,
And we know, and don't we know, and we don't really take too much, and we don't champion this, but we know that the placebo effect,
yeah,
which is used by the medical profession, and yet, you tell somebody, just have this pill, it's going to make you so much better, or clear up that rash, or make your hair grow, or your nose grow longer, whatever it is, get rid of the wrinkles. And people, if they believe that person who's given them that sugar pill, the pill's doing nothing, but it's that belief that, oh yeah, these little white pills do work. And it works. People know it works. So surely knowing just that the belief in something is enough to make dramatic changes, that we should all be able to sort of go, bloody hell, by just believing in such and such, I can keep myself fit and healthy, and I don't need this, and what have you.
I totally agree with that too. But we are under so much attack that it's hard to keep someone, we can't all go and sip a mountain for 13 years and wait for all this to kick in. I mean, when I opened the healing center here, I got a lot of people saying, we are the med beds, Mark. We don't need these machines because
Right.
we started with hyperbaric oxygen machines, red light beds, PEMF therapy. We've got an Orinoco quantum healing machine. We've got
Of course you have.
sound bed healing. We've got light heat, all of this stuff. And my answer is the same. It's like, yeah, I know that we can do all of this, but the majority of the human race is nowhere near that. So
Right.
they need to be able to walk into a place, go, oh, there's a lovely machine. I go in that for an hour. And even if it's just achieving a state of relaxation, that's massive.
Yes.
Most people don't do that.
No.
Most people do not take an hour and a half out of their day to just relax or meditate. But that's because the system makes it impossible. This is why, again, so many people fell out during COVID, especially during the first lockdown, because most people were like, "Oh God, I'm married to you." I didn't even know who you were.
Yes, I've not
Because I've been
spent
going
so many hours in a locked room with you.
yeah, for 20 years. I've been passing like ships in the night, watching the TV, and people have just had to. This is the beautiful thing about it all, actually, because when you see people go, "Oh my God, I know who I am now," and oh, and now I know my purpose. Oh, and yeah, now I'm doing this. It's amazing when you see that, and it's happening more and more and more. And I'm an apocalyptimist at the end of the day. I know the apocalypse is the great revealing in Greek, and I'm optimistic about the outcome because I always have been, and I didn't come here to lose, and I didn't come here to see us fail. We're gonna win. We're incredible. Don't get bogged down with the fear on the TV because it's literally all fear and theatre.
Yes. Yes. Oh, and I keep telling my audience how I've thrown away my telly and I don't listen to the. It's funny. I did a talk the other day, funny as it happens, and people came up to me and they said, "Oh, Richard, I love your show because we come there and we get the news." And
Yeah.
and I said to them, well, I don't know how we get the news because I don't watch mainstream media. I don't read a paper. I don't listen to the radio. I don't actually consume a lot of stuff online. I read old books. I sit in the kitchen most evenings with the lovely Julia with candles looking at the real fire and make our vegetables. And I desperately try and think, what can I talk about in my monologue the next day? Because I try not to. I mean, people do send me emails and say, oh, this is happening and this is happening, when I may regurgitate a bit of that from time to time. But so I'm always surprised when they say, oh, but we come first to get the news. And I think, well, I'm not talking about the Middle East or the war in Ukraine, or I've no idea what's gone in Labour's cabinet since they won because I haven't watched any of it. I just have no notion, no idea, and I don't want to know. I don't want to be bogged down with all that nonsense. I'm much more interested in spending time with Julia and my family, and talking to friends, and cooking,
Yeah.
and being.
No, it's wonderful. I mean, when I did a tour in America nearly 2 years ago, and when Tarot by Janine became a good friend of mine, and she got on stage and she goes, "What kind of a world is it where we're all getting our news from a tarot card reader?" I mean, it's like
Exactly.
that's what it's come to, because we know it's all bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
part, that's
no,
part of the fun.
it's part of the fun. I'm just going to bring it back to your book. So you've got some practical guides on various things. How to sort of meditate, and oh yeah, here's the one thing. Okay, the law of attraction.
Hmm.
And I was reading that, and you're talking about, yes, in the sort of 60s or whenever it was, loads of copious books came out about the law of attraction, and you can attract the things you want, and you can make yourself rich, and blah, blah, blah. And then you go on to say, and of course, they don't tell you the most important part of it. And as I'm reading there, I'm thinking, he's going to tell us what that is in a minute. And I kept reading on. And then it went from you to Abby's conversation about it. And then it talked about other bits of related thing. And I was thinking, have I missed it? Where is this bloody bit that they keep missing out? So tell us then a bit about the law of attraction and how it works. I mean, a lot of people obviously have sort of got a vague idea of all of that. And why have they omitted it? And what is it that they have omitted?
Okay, so I think in the book I was talking about the best example of this is Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow
Yes.
Rich.
Yes.
And that book came into existence because Andrew Carnegie, who was kind of like Bill Gates, industrialist of his day, but rich beyond the wildest dreams of avarice, sat down with Napoleon, commissioned him to write it, and he gave him a Rolodex of all of his contacts and says, "Go and speak." And I think it took 16 years to write.
Bloody
And
hell.
when it came back, the story goes that Carnegie went, this is great, but we're going to take that bit out, and we don't want to give him everything." Now, this is very similar. This is what I would call a limited hangout. It's very similar to the Christian church and Catholicism, for example. Like I was reading, I don't know the exact number. I think it's 771 books. I sometimes say 900. I haven't got the exact figure. Greg Braden says it's 771 books were taken out of the Bible by the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. And the reason that was done is to create a limited hangout, because it comes back to this simple idea that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Now, because we are spiritual beings, we have spiritual experiences while we're here, and we need an outlet for them, or we need to be able to talk about them, or we need to share these ideas or these experiences with people. We live in a system where, oh, that you're insane for thinking UFOs exist, but we believe in a man with a white beard in the sky whose son was sacrificed to save everybody, because we go to this big building called a church, which, by the way, if it's 2020, you have to wear a mask to come into. And by the way, the priest will probably take your son into the vestry and do horrible things to him. And I don't mean that lightly. It happened to my dad. And I found out the other day it happened to me in hospital when I was unconscious in 1977.
My
So
goodness.
this is what actually the world we actually live in. So they create these limited hangouts, and the people, the consciousness has been rising in the human. It's constantly rising, and we're at a point where they've known that that's been coming. So in a way, the self-help spiritual world has been created in a way to ring fence those people whose consciousness has been rising. So you create a book like Think and Grow Rich, which sounds like it's just about getting rich, but if you read it, it's deeply spiritual in terms of content.
Yes.
The same as The Secret, which was launched on Oprah Winfrey. Similar to think you can think yourself. I can't remember what it's called. Louise Hay. That was massive. Hay House got launched because it went on Oprah Winfrey. And I'm not putting Louise Hay in the same group as this, but The Secret missed it out as well. The Secret was really a rewriting of Think and Grow Rich, in my opinion. And what they took out the thing that you have to believe it. The missing link is that you have to believe it. So when people read Think and Grow Rich or The Secret, and I spent a lot of time teaching business, so I've met a lot of people that will look into this sort of thing. You'll find them in the office with a cork board and a picture of a Ferrari and a picture of a mansion, like wrote what's his name, Iron Man's house on the side of the hills in Malibu or whatever. And then a year later they'll just give up because it didn't happen, and then they'll go, well, the law of attraction is a load of rubbish. And then I was like, well, hang on a minute, I'm a short-ass pot-bellied council house kid who became an RAF pilot, and that was purely the law of attraction. 100%. And the difference between me and all the tens of thousands of other kids that tried to get into the RAF to become a pilot is that I totally, 100%, without any doubt whatsoever, knew I was going to do it for at least 10 years.
Right.
So that's the missing link.
And it's interesting you say it, because I was speaking to a chap yesterday who came round and we were talking about something else, but we were talking about children learning to walk for the very first time. And he said, when you watch children, and walking, learning to walk, they fall over. They don't know what falling over means. They don't think of it as failure or anything. They're so present, they know they're going to walk.
Yeah.
And they do.
Yeah.
Because they have no doubt about it. And I think you've just illustrated that with being a pilot.
Well, bringing up my 5 kids, if I was in Tesco's in Didsbury, because I used to live in Manchester, and one of them fell over and suddenly be surrounded by 10 people go, oh my God, the child's fallen. And I go, back off, he's fine.
Yeah.
And they look at me like I was the worst parent in the world. And I'm like, he has to learn to get up. I mean, it's in the first Batman Begins. You fall over, so you learn how to get up. We literally live in a world. I mean, when my son was born, it's 20 years ago, my eldest, I actually had and I'm ashamed to say this, but I actually had the thought of putting those things at the top of the stairs and the bottom of the stairs to stop the baby crawling up. And my ex-wife, bless her, was right. She said, what are you thinking? The kid, he'll know not to fall, and if he does, he'll learn from it.
Yes.
And
we had the same thing. We had a Rayburn. I've got a wood burning stove now, but we had a Rayburn when the kids were small, and it was wood burning or coal burning, multi-fuel, and we had a front room fire, and we didn't have any protection for it. And people would say, "But what if he falls and stumbles into it, or he puts his hand on it?" I said, "But they just don't.
They don't.
They don't. They can feel the same as you and me, and they go. And if they do it once, they've learnt." And there was a case with my son Billy, bless him, and he was about 10, and I was ironing clothes back in the day when I used to bother ironing. I was ironing clothes because I was going off somewhere, and he said, "Is that hot?" And I said, "Yeah, that's how it works. It sort of flattens out the thing." And he said, "Can I touch it?" I said, "You can if you want." So I didn't stop him because we'd established that it was hot, and he went, "Ow!" And I said, "Did that burn?" He said, "Yeah." He never did it again. And but we laugh about it. We'll say, "Remember the time when you touched the thing?" And he goes, "Yeah, that was funny."
Same thing. Like one of my second daughter, I did the same thing with Chili's with her when she was about 4, and she was flying a plane at 14.
Wow,
fearless. And I could go into that's another whole.
Yeah, it's another absolutely
a whole episode.
But it is all these things that we put boundaries on things because we don't necessarily believe it, and the worst is to do it for children.
We've just forgotten who we are,
Right?
And it had to end. Society could not continue. It just couldn't. It was Sodom and Gomorrah, and I think what we're experiencing now is like the lancing of a boil or going through the process of having a fever. It's horrible. There's loads of mess. There's runs to the toilet. There's mucus everywhere. It's disgusting. It's painful. You wish it was over, and it will be. And it will be.
So it's over. Like it's a big global detox.
I think it is, yeah. And we've got to shake this shit off the back because we're going somewhere amazing. And if we're not, I wouldn't bother getting up in the morning. And it's not just about me. There's millions of people like me.
Yeah.
And
no, I totally agree. I mean, because if you're constantly people, I'm doing a YouTube channel or a podcast or whatever, there's always loads of trolls who are telling you that it's all rubbish and they're trying to undermine you. But for some reason, I keep feeling the urge that I have to do something or talk about it in lots of variety of different ways, and have wonderful guests on like yourself to reinforce, and also to learn, as you said before, to learn something from people who know a lot more about it. And you just think, I have to keep doing it. Why do I have to, especially now that you've been defunded from it all, and yet it seems even more important to talk about these things, because the amount of those people who say, Richard, it's really made a difference. And you go, has it?
Yes, it has. You've done an amazing job, and you being taken down shows the doubters, oh, there is something to this. He got censored. Why? Lovely Richard Vogel got censored. Why? And then it gets that, and it's all part of it. It's all part of consciousness, I think. And it's a wonderful thing to see. And yeah, you've done an amazing job. Yeah. I've lost my...
So, yeah. No, so going back to your book, bringing back to your book, because it is a fascinating book. I don't want to give too much away, because it's definitely worth getting hold of and having a look. But let's just move away, because the other thing that you do is a bit of poetry. And I know you've given me permission to show and share one of your poems.
Well, the first thing at the time I met you, I gave you one of these.
You did. God Wins.
Very big book.
And we did a thing about that, and I'm just looking where it is, because I thought I had it on the set.
It's holding up the coffee table in the kitchen.
Oh, it's probably doing that. But it's a great book, because each page is very powerful on itself. The visuals of it is very powerful. And I remember waxing lyrical with you about it. But I thought I'd put it in here, but I think Julia made it.
It's very good as a burglar weapon. Bang them over the head with it.
Bang them over the head. And so there you go. God, one again.
Exactly.
Yeah, naught to you, mate. One to God.
Especially bailiffs.
Exactly. So the thing we're going to play in now, can you tell us something about it before we play it in? Just give us some context.
When things really kicking off in 2020, 21, I saw these amazing, I've got a big problem with the BBC, as anybody that follows me knows. The fact that they've got a paedophile statue outside made by a paedophile that's been there since 1926, and then they just rebuild it if you try to take it down. The fact that they supported Jimmy Savile for 50 years, Philip Schofield, the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. I hate the BBC. And there were these amazing people outside the BBC telling the BBC what a bunch of paedophile satanic bastards they really are. And when that happened, I got this download that was so intense. And I wrote a poem called We See You, which is a really powerful, dark poem about them, about us seeing them. And then about a year later, I got this poem given to me called I See You, which is like a companion piece to it. And it was really... it's just a really uplifting piece of work that's, it's got my name on it, but really it came from God, because he told me that it was for me as well. And, I've seen men in monster trucks in Texas crying their eyes out watching this poem. So I thought it would be nice to share it as an uplifting thing to finish this show off with, and to thank you, because it's also for you.
Oh, bless you. Well, let's have a look now. I've got to get all my eggs in the right basket here to do this, so bear with me. If I remember rightly, I think it's here. There we go. And we will play it now.
I see you twinkling in the sky, shimmering in Van Gogh's eye, sparkling as the starseed you really are. You've come so far. Born onto the facsimile earth, all memories erased. Not one iota of your talents, of the children you once raised. I see. You never felt accepted. You never felt the same. Your friends and family alien, often seemed insane. They pointed fingers at you, they laughed behind your back. Whilst you were dancing with fairies and angels, you were on a different track. I see you. You felt alone. You did your best. You smiled through all the pain. They beat you and abused you. They knew you'd come to end their reign. As winters came and summers left, the leaves fell over years. The spirit voice inside your soul grew louder through your tears. I see you. They broke you down, they tricked you, they stabbed you through the heart. They feasted on your effervescence, they relished you apart. They stole your youth, they stole your money, convinced you they were right. But every time they ripped you open, closer came their night. I see you. Like the caterpillar at the end of life, entombed inside the cocoon. The hero's journey final act, when all seems certain doom. Those belittled words of faith and belief diminish amidst the noise, yet you hold on, you won't let go. For the battle, you are poised. I see you! Deep, deep down, you hear the cry. In remembrance, you answer, yes. The fight was laid before you. To come is yet the best. Besmirched, belittled, tossed aside, you nearly lost your way. Letting go of all beloveds, you tried your truth to say. I see you. As the veil it dissipated, as all the solids melted, the remnants left fought their way to sovereignty, once doubted. You stood your ground, you found your power, your strength became unbounded. For you are the warrior child of this world, in your brilliance our future founded. I see you.
How about that, ladies and gentlemen? There we go. And I will.
Don't ever make me run.
Oh, hang on. Oh, there's a little bit more there. Hang on. Let's just see this last little bit. Bear with me, because I thought that was the end. Let me just roll that back a bit.
Don't ever make me run up a fucking sand dune for a fucking poem again. You.
Fantastic, brilliant. Let me just stop that and go back to us. Mark, lovely poem. I'm going to leave a link to your poetry channel so people can watch that again and see it better in better quality than how I cobbled it into this. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Your book, I will get this right this time, Weapons of Mass Protection, Practical Tools for Spiritual Warfare, is where is it available?
Well, it's on Amazon, but I'd say anybody wants it, go to the link below, because you can get a free version of it, and then we give you the links to everywhere on Amazon that it is available. And then there's in Ireland they won't sell it on Amazon, so there's also a link to where you can get it in Ireland and different places across the world. But if you get it on Amazon, if you get it on the link that you're going to put up, you can get the ebook first to see if you actually want to pay for it or you want to get it. So that's the best way to get it.
Brilliant, and the link will be in the description. You said at the end in the interview, we're all going to win this spiritual war, and we're going to go to somewhere interesting. Have you got an idea what that looks like?
I do. Yeah.
Can you share that with us?
Well,
in a brief.
it's lovely.
It's lovely. There we are, ladies and gentlemen. It's lovely. Nothing
Come in.
to
The
worry
water's
about.
lovely. Yeah. It's a world of peace and a place where we won't even need money. And there's no question. You've only got to look. The way I answer this is just look at the automobile.
Yeah.
Look at the internal combustion engine, which they just tried to replace with the con of the EVs. But the internal combustion engine didn't change for over 100 years.
Right.
And then look at this and what this did in 10.
Yeah.
So, you've only got to use a little bit of brain power to realize that technology has been suppressed. And, people talk about med beds and flying cars and anti-gravity devices. All I can tell you is I've been visited by ships. I've seen dragons flying that are made of light. There's a whole other world that we haven't become aware of yet. And what we're going through at the moment is the remembrance of who we really are as ancient, eternal spirits. And you could talk about it 3D to 5D. People do for ease. I'll use the terminology. We're going through the fourth dimension at the moment, which is why people are struggling and suffering and dying, because they're not connecting back to source. And a lot of us, like I think people like you, are holding a hand out to help people over the bridge, and that's where we're at the moment. And you just got to get rid of the fear. We're going through this massive spiritual initiation to prepare us for a way of living that we can't even. It's like trying to describe a color that nobody's ever seen.
Right.
I feel it more than anything else, and if I didn't feel it, I wouldn't get up in the morning. I wouldn't bother talking to them. I wouldn't bother writing books or poetry or anything else. And I'm just one of millions of other people that feel the same way. So start listening to us instead of the news.
Absolutely. There you go. Mark, it's been an absolute joy to talk to you. Thank you so much. Good luck with the book and all the other things you do, the Mark Attwood Show. I'll leave a link to that and everything else. Many of my audience, I should think, knows you anyway, and so they'll be overjoyed that I've spoken to you. I am, of course. And hopefully we'll meet up again in the real world rather than this online digital sort of version. But it's been an absolute joy. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. I think I'm doing a live talk in England in 2 weeks. In Leicester.
Let me know where it is.
In Leicestershire,
in due course, as and when.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah.
Thanks for everything.
Brilliant. I hope you've enjoyed that, ladies and gentlemen. I certainly have, and you've gleaned something from that. And I'll be back with more monologues and more wonderful guests. So there you are. Until the next time, thank you so much for watching from the wonderful Mark, that side. There we are. And myself. Take care. Look after yourself. Till next time, from Mark and I, goodbye.